clear of the closing doors, please.
All right, here we go. Subway Sports Talk. My name is Peter Kennedy, and I am your host. Thank you, as always, for joining us on SST and Apple Podcast app. And it is hard to bring the energy that I normally do in an intro as I sit here with Pat Boyle and Cody O'Connor right after the New York Knicks lose in overtime 112-106 by the hands of Tyrese Maxey, who was by far and away the best player in that game. Absolutely balled out, demoralizing the Knicks at every turn, and this series is headed back to Philadelphia. Pat Boyle, Cody O'Connor, Pete Kennedy, Apple Podcast app, Spotify, YouTube. You know where to find the show. And here we are, thinking we are going to enjoy and have this great energy with immaculate vibes, talking about a closeout game with a top-tier performance from Jalen Brunson in the Garden. And we sit here today with the heartbreak, with the actual just intensity of the possible series slipping out of their hands right in front of our faces. So here we are, Pat Boyle, Cody O'Connor. Pat, how are you feeling right now, brother?
That game definitely took some years off my life, for sure. And I feel like I'm dead after that. The only way I can describe it, and the only thing that gives me solace, despite the 3-2 lead and still having two more chances to beat them, is we had the Game 2 miracle. Now we have the Game 5 collapse. And tough to say which game was more unbelievable to witness, which was a more stunning finish. Because what the Knicks pulled off in Game 2 was inconceivable. And then to have a 6-point lead with 28 seconds left for a team that's 44-3 in the regular season and playoffs this year when leading after the fourth quarter. Granted, a 1-point lead going into the fourth quarter, but a 6-point lead with 28 seconds left. And Mitchell Robinson steps into Tyrese Maxey, who drills a 3-and-1 4-point play. And then Josh Hart doesn't get rid of the ball quick enough. He's the one that has to shoot the free throws. Of course, he misses the first one. And then the Knicks don't foul, which most other times I'd be okay with. But for a guy that had 40 fucking points, and granted he pulled up from the logo, but to not foul him immediately when he gets the ball, force him to shoot 2 free throws, trust that if he misses the second, trust that you're the best rebounding team in the Eastern Conference, that you grab the rebound, and then you have 2 more free throws to probably ice the game. And, then even then, the Sixers have maybe 3 seconds left to shoot a 60-footer. It's Tyrese Maxey, 7 points in the final 28 seconds. 2 unbelievable shots. Brunson doesn't get the buzzer beater. They go up by 5 in overtime and then just utterly shit in their pants and collapse. It is just not even a week removed from the greatest Knick win I've ever seen. This is the most crushing Knick loss I've ever seen.
This one was just brutal. And like you kind of laid out there, it had layers, it had levels. You had the lead in the fourth quarter that slipped away, like you just talked about. You had Brunson start off incredibly well in overtime, and you felt like the momentum shifted back in the Knicks' favor. And then all of a sudden, a few mistakes, a little ball hogginess out of Jalen Brunson. It felt like no one else dribbled the ball. No one else got to look at the hoop, which I get it. You want the ball in your guy's hand. It's in his hands all the time. We're okay with this, but it felt a little forced. It felt a little bit not fluid. And when it came down to the biggest mistake, when he left his feet looking to shoot, when he clearly didn't have a good look and threw the ball away, like Joel Embiid was doing throughout the game, that was the icing on the cake. That was the last straw. The Sixers hit their free throws. The Knicks didn't. That was it right there. So you have these sliding doors moments. You can point to probably about 6 different little spots in that fourth quarter and overtime that could have changed anything one way or the other. I texted with a Philly friend of mine, a Sixers fan friend of mine, and it was just multitude of great plays and a multitude of horrible plays by both sides the entire end of the fourth quarter and for partial parts of overtime. More so by the Knicks in overtime on the horrible front. But both of these teams were trying to get rid of the ball. Both of these teams were making mistakes. Both of these teams were making incredible plays. The Sixers made more, and they made less mistakes, and that's what it came down to. Cody, I know that you're on Team Knicks here, obviously, going into this playoff run. You're not like some of the other non-Knicks fans here in New York who want to see the demise of the New York Knicks and Jalen Brunson. You've been on the wagon. You've been enjoying it. But you are a little bit of a different view. But did you feel the pain that Pat and I just felt as well?
Yeah, I feel it, and it sucks because it's like this isn't even necessarily my team. I consider myself more of a Knicks supporter. My family's Knicks fans, whatnot. But I do have the Knicks to win the series, so putting money up typically can make you root one way or the other. And this was crushing. I mean, when Deuce McBride hits that shot at the free throw line, you think all is well. Series is wrapped up. Ha Embiid, 9 turnovers, collapses down the stretch. And I mean, more credit than anything, though, to Tyrese Maxey, who was just an absolute dog. I mean, big shot after big shot when nobody else on the floor is doing it. A little bit of Kelly Oubre, but really more so some slip screens where all the attention's on Tyrese Maxey up top. And the shot's going to him, just like the Sixers have to know it's going to be Brunson. And Maxey was able to get it done. The Sixers had their collapse in game 2, like you said. The Knicks have theirs in game 5. The one thing I will say is this series has always felt like more than a 5-game series. It never felt like it was going to be easy. It's been an absolute grind of a series. And I was ready to come on here and talk about how this and that Lakers-Nuggets series have to be 2 of the best 5-game series I've ever seen. And now this one's obviously going to a 6th game. But if there's any team that I feel like can regroup and can keep their composure and not get too down and realize, hey, we're still up 3-2. Yes, we're going back to Philadelphia, but we are in control of this series still. We're still 1 win away from moving on. The mental toughness, I think the Knicks do have it. I think they've got the guys. They've got the dogs. They just need to have a little bit more offense. I think some of that comes from, like you said, Jalen Brunson just at times feeling like he's dribbling the air out of the ball. Very Luka Doncic-esque. And you're right. You want it to be in your guys' hands, but sometimes you got to move the ball. They've got other guys. They've got other options. Hartenstein seemed, with all the attention on Brunson late, like he was open for some potential lobs if Jalen does take a little bit of that angle in, can possibly lob one up over Embiid's head to Hartenstein or something along those lines. But like I said, tough loss, time to regroup. At the end of the day, the series is far from over. You're up 3-2. Go win it on their floor now. Let's see what you're made of.
Thanks for listening, guys. That's Subway Sports Talk. And
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
We made it through.
Honestly, and I was thinking about this too, it's the disease of more for Jalen Brunson there in overtime. He scores 5 points right away, hits the 3 from the right wing. He makes the nice drive with the little scoop shot right past Joel Embiid in overtime. All of a sudden, the Knicks are up. He's looking good. He's feeling good. He's 50 minutes deep into this game, and now he's like, I got this. But like you just mentioned, Cody, to expand on that, there were no actions. There was no movement. There was nothing else, right? It's all good to have the ball in Jalen Brunson's hands, or in years past, right? It's all good to have the ball in Julius Randle's hands, but you need to have action, and the best teams do it well. When you saw at most a pretty okay screen by Isaiah Hartenstein was the only action they ran in overtime. That was it. The only time. They weren't kicking the ball and giving it back to Brunson in a different spot. They weren't setting multiple screens. They weren't screening the screener. They weren't doing any of that stuff. They weren't looking for other shooters. So that was a problem as well. And that's not what the Knicks have been. For all the times the Knicks have been Brunson reliant to get stuff done, he doesn't frequently just sit at the top of the key and try to cook and James Harden, Luka Doncic himself to a good look. He can do it, and he does do it. But it's not like he does that all the time. And the pick and rolls weren't committed to enough, and there was nothing else going on offensively for the Knicks. That's part on Brunson. That's part on Tibbs. That's part on everybody who was just on the court there, which leads me to my next question here. The others for the New York Knicks tonight had a bit of an up and down performance. We had some really great stuff by OG Anunoby. I think he held his own by a long shot. The numbers are good, 17 and 6. He had his 2 steals and a block. Hartenstein and Mitch, obviously you don't expect a lot of scoring from them. They did their thing. They made Embiid's life a living hell. Everyone but Maxey really had a difficult time getting into the rim. McBride played decently well. He overall played probably above average for himself right there. Hart and DiVincenzo is where I want to lead this question, though. Dante DiVincenzo, 26 minutes. Meanwhile, Hart, 53. Brunson, 51. OG, 50 minutes. Is something really wrong here? Am I looking at this wrong, Pat, for Dante DiVincenzo not shooting well, so now he has to play 26 minutes when Josh Hart's also not shooting well? And I know that Josh Hart brings all this other stuff to the table, but he took 17 shots here in Game 5. Dante DiVincenzo benched again, basically, only playing 25 minutes. Yes, he was 3 of 10, 1 of 7 from 3, but this guy is still the best shooter on the team. And he was absent again for 2 games in a row in some crucial moments. Is this going to be a trend, Pat? Is this something you agree with or disagree with?
It's hard to disagree with it. He's been absent for almost the entire series outside of the final stretch in Game 2 where he hits the miracle shot. When he's not hitting shots, he doesn't offer anything close defensively that Deuce McBride offers. And that's why Deuce outplayed him in minutes tonight. That's why Deuce has basically gotten the same amount of minutes as him the entire series. Doesn't play as good as defense as Deuce. Doesn't play as good as defense as Hart. Doesn't rebound nearly as well as Hart. So, yeah, the only thing he really is useful, I don't use that term lightly. In comparison to the other guys on the team, the only thing DiVincenzo is useful for is hitting threes. And he hasn't done it. I mean, I'm super disappointed in him. Really, really disappointed. Guy that hit the 3rd most threes in the NBA this year, he's been a non-factor. Like, when I looked at this series as a preview-wise, and we we're all confident that the Knicks would win, and I said Knicks in 6, a lot of us were thinking Knicks in 5. A lot of the reason behind that, along with all the other things that the Knicks do well, was because of the 3-point threat that Dante DiVincenzo offers. Something that the Knicks did not have last year in the postseason. Something that the Knicks have not had in recent years. Big reason why they couldn't beat the Miami Heat. They didn't have that 3-point knockdown shooter. And a big reason why I do still think the Knicks can get to the finals and beat the Boston Celtics, yes, is because of Dante DiVincenzo. But it just hasn't been a good matchup for him. He hasn't looked confident. And when he's not knocking down shots, again, Deuce is 10 times the defender he is. And like you said, even though Josh Hart's taking 17 shots, yeah, I mean, a lot of that has been in recent games. The Sixers have been daring him to shoot, and he was knocking it down. Now he's not, but you can't take him off the floor when he gives you the rebounding prowess that he has, plus for only being 6'4", the defense that he gives you. So for me, the guy that's in the doghouse, more so than anybody else on this team, is DiVincenzo, and it's not even close.
And yeah, I think the way you explain that makes a lot of sense. The one thing I'll add to DiVincenzo's usefulness that I do think can go underrated at times is the connectivity that he can add to the offense, that secondary playmaking that he can add to the offense. And in times like the end of that 4th quarter and in overtime there, where it's Brunson or die, I think DiVincenzo, more so than the others, is probably the most useful at like finding a lane, making an extra pass. He can backdoor cut, obviously the shooting stuff. But I do think that overall you're right there. But I guess I'm playing hindsight a little bit here too, because I'll get to Tibbs in a second. I'm playing hindsight here a little bit too, because I feel like he could have been another outlet to make something happen, but it probably wouldn't have mattered. He would have been waiting for a chance to get a shot up, because that's all they were clearly doing was Brunson, go ahead. Maybe he'll kick it out. He probably won't. What the Tibbs front is, though, and this was a greatly talked about by you, Pat, when it came to Mitch and Hartenstein on the last episode that we recorded here. Tibbs is a little bit of a new age Tibbs nowadays in 2024. He's not just going to run his lineup out there for the exact minutes he expected, including all his guys playing 48 minutes, right? He is riding the players who make sense in these moments, and McBride has made more sense in these moments. I actually felt that he could have given Brunson a blow at certain points in that first half and leave McBride in there. That's how good McBride was playing for stretches of this season and during this game here. So I guess I'd be a little bit hypocritical if I thought Tibbs should have rolled DiVincenzo back out there in overtime. So to that, I think you've swayed me on my question/point there, Pat. However, I do think in this instance, it would have been nice to have someone else who could have done something, but you're right. Tibbs couldn't have made that decision based upon his ethics and his standards for this entire postseason.
Let me just add, I don't want to completely trash DiVincenzo. He did have 2 blocks, including that monster chase down help block on Maxey. And he has a couple blocks in this series. It got lost when as I'm inconsolable here and frankly had my fucking heart ripped out of my chest here. But yeah, I don't disagree with Tibbs leaving him on the bench for the key moments down the stretch here. I mean, Deuce made huge plays. I agree with you. Maybe he could have given Brunson a bit of a breather at different times in that second half. I mean, he took him out for like 2 minutes, I think, from the 10 to 8 minute mark in the fourth quarter. That was about it in the second half. And he's just been disappointing, though, with the one thing you'd expected from DiVincenzo was the shot making, and he hasn't brought it. And I get worried now. Again, in the last week when we recorded in the last couple of games, I said, he's got to give DiVincenzo some looks in the first half because it feels like if he misses his first 2 shots, he's out of the game. And today he picked up like 2-3 early fouls, I think. And that's what got him on the bench. But what I'm worried about is that now in Game 6, and you mentioned it, Pete, Brunson ball hogged in the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter and in overtime. And, he hit some big shots, but, we all, I think now are going to look back at this game and say, man, those last couple of moments, 2 missed threes, a turnover, 2 missed threes and 2 turnovers, including that hesitation 3 and the missed jump pass to Hartenstein. What I worry about now is that Tibbs gets sucked into this, okay, well, it has to be Brunson. We have to lean on him. The Sixers have to lean on Tyrese Maxey. And they had to lean on Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. And they're still going to lean on those 2 guys, even with Embiid not looking nearly 100%. He had 13 minutes in regulation, 13 points in regulation. They leaned on Maxey because they had to. I don't want the Knicks to lean on Brunson and have him ball hog because they feel like they have to, because they don't. They're a much better balanced team. I want the balanced offense. That is when the Knicks operate at their best. So that was, it felt like the pressure got to Tibbs, and it felt like the pressure got to Brunson in the sense that they felt like Brunson had to put the cape on and do everything in overtime in the last 2 minutes, which wasn't the case. Cody, you mentioned it. Perfect play right in the last 8 seconds after Maxey hits the logo 3 would have been for Brunson to drive like he did, and then Embiid already ran over to help, have Hartenstein literally just stand at the rim and just throw up an alley-oop to the far side for him. He was like totally uncovered. So that's what I worry about in Game 6, is that if it's another close game, which every single game in this series has been close, I worry that Tibbs will get away from what has made the Knicks so great this year, and he'll go to the hero ball, which we crushed Julius Randle for so many times in the past. The ISO ball, the hero ball. Doesn't look the same with Brunson, but it felt the same those last couple of minutes.
You got to wonder, too, like, and it's hard to do this, right? Because if Mitch doesn't lunge into Maxey, and if this game, if Josh Hart hits his free throws and this is a different outcome, are we even having this conversation? Probably not. But you got to wonder, like, is Brunson, with what he's doing, is that taking his guys out of a rhythm a little bit? Like, DiVincenzo's the type of guy that's a rhythm shooter. When he gets one to fall, you're like, oh, watch out. Similar to Bogdanovich, who I do think they're missing as well, not having his offensive presence there. Because it does look like sometimes, like not even sometimes, very often it feels Brunson or bust. And that, you're 100% right, Pat. That is not what made them a 50-win team. That's not what made them the 2 seed. They are a team that could swing the ball, that could trust other guys. But it's hard to have that trust when, Hart and DiVincenzo, who are playing major minutes, are a combined 2 for 13 from 3. Your team shoots 28% from 3, and 4 of those may come from Brunson himself. So I understand where he's like, I got to do it myself. But trust what got you there. Trust what it was. Tibbs should take a look at this. Again, the series is far from over. You're back in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
You're in control, right? So show this mental toughness that they've had all year. Show this resilience, this back against the wall mentality. That's what made the Knicks the Knicks. That's why this team is so likable, so enjoyable. We're not going to just, go into Philly and say, oh, we don't have a chance here. Let's go. Let's go. This was never going to be easy. Never going to be an easy series with this team down the street. No shot.
And thank you for pulling the ball out there for a second, Cody. And because I wanted to kind of take a step back and do that whole thing. Like, let's look at this series again from the big picture, because it's easy to sit here after game 5 and say, oh my God, the sky is falling. This is going to go bad. The Sixers have blown 3-1 leads in the past. Now it's going to flip. It's going to be the Knicks. They're going to blow the 3-1 lead. They're going to lose in Philly. And then, oh my gosh, it's over. This is not over, right? Like, we can't act like this is a funeral. Just like we couldn't act like this was a parade after the last game that the Knicks won, making this 3-1. And I think a lot of Knicks fans were taking their victory laps. I definitely had my fair share of moments where I was braggadocious with some friends. But you always caveat it. But this series ain't over. Just like the last time me and Pat talked, I think it was actually, was it after it was 2-0? I kind of forget now when we did the podcast last time. And we were like, all right, listen, they're up 2-0. This looks good. This series ain't even close to over. Let's not get crazy here. So let's bring the ball out here. Let's reset this a little bit here. Maxey getting his flowers, super well-deserved. The Joel Embiid issue is actually very, very real. So let me just, before we get to the Sixers side of things, because we will get to the Maxey, Embiid, and the others on the Sixers side of it all. Let's talk about the Knicks for one more second here and what we could expect here in Game 6. Any sort of change that you see possible, Pat? I don't know if you want to take it from a change that you'd like to see or a change that you think Tibbs might actually make. Is there any one thing that stands out to you that you might think is going to be a big difference here in Game 6? Or do you think they were so close, they're going to roll that out, play as hard as they do, and just try to win it with what they do?
I just worry about Tyrese Maxey now making other guys dangerous. He killed the Knicks tonight, and he had to do it by himself. What I worry about now, from a Philly standpoint, their offense is, I mean, look, at this point, I don't think Embiid looks worse with each passing game. I don't think that's going to change. But that's scary. That Embiid has looked really, really bad. And the Knicks, and this is going 6, that they didn't close that game out. And they were, like I said, Joel Embiid, I'm almost positive he had 13 points in regulation. And they get crushed by Maxey. What I'm worried about now is that they put so much pressure on Tyrese Maxey. And again, how do you not, right? Like, how do you not double team him? How do you not try to guard him like the Sixers guarded Jalen Brunson in the first couple games? And then that leaves open threes for Batum and Kelly Oubre and fucking Campaign. And that's what I worry about. If those guys knock down their threes in Game 6, we're going back to the Garden for Game 7. That's what I'm worried about.
And you think about the rest of the Sixers team in this game, like you mentioned there, you get 3 for 6 from Tobias Harris. Like, somebody told Tobias Harris to had a game today, and he showed up, played like a real human being for once. Like, all these jokes we've made about Tobias Harris in the past here, he played super freaking good. He was 7 of 11 from the field. He was 3 of 6 from 3, like I just mentioned. He rebounded. He played pretty tough, and he didn't disappear. Like, he actually hit shots in moments where it's so standard at this point where it's like, oh, swing to Tobias Harris. He's wide open in the corner. He'll probably miss it. He made them tonight. He played well. Kelly Oubre, this is his second pretty good game in a row, and he didn't even hit a jump shot. He was 0 for 3 from 3, but he was super active. We know what he's done on defense against Brunson. The others played pretty well here for the Sixers tonight. Batum continued to kind of do what he does on defense. He had a couple jump shots as well. So I agree, Pat. There's a chance that the others for Philly can get some good looks here with Maxey's, with everyone kind of hyper-focusing on Tyrese Maxey. But we also have to ask the question, do you expect Tyrese Maxey to go for 46 points again on 7 of 12 from 3, 17 of 30 overall? Maybe. He's freaking good, man. He's really good. He's a dog. I tweeted out during the game in like the first or second quarter. I said, if I'm trying to exactly exemplify how New Yorkers are feeling right now, I wrote about Joel Embiid being a foul merchant, crybaby, but talented as hell. Nick Nurse is a loser crybaby. And I said, Tyrese Maxey is a dog and mad respect, because I think even Knicks fans are watching this series and tipping their cap to Tyrese Maxey. I don't even know one Knicks fan in my life is like, yo, fuck Maxey, he's a piece of shit. Nobody's saying that, because this guy plays his ass off. He does it the right way. He actually is almost infuriatingly nice on the court, trying to pick up Brunson off the floor. Like, he is doing everything in a extraordinary manner, including his on the court output. So right now it's absolutely unnerving. What was it? Unnerving. There we go. Unnerving as a Knicks fan to try to think about Maxey not taking this series over. But the Knicks are going to have to figure that out. Does that mean more McBride, Cody? Does that mean even less DiVincenzo and a guaranteed 48 minutes for Hart in Game 5 here? What do you think here on trying to stop Maxey now?
I don't know if you could tell by my sign language, but as often as possible, it's length and it's OG Anunoby on him. It's not the easiest thing. There's going to be switches all day long. I understand they're going to set screens. All of that's going to happen. Tyrese is going to get his looks, right? But as much as you can, try to bother that guy with length, because yes, OG was unbelievable at face guarding Embiid in Game 4 and essentially taking the ball out of his hands and going over to double him. But Embiid just doesn't look very healthy, whether that's the excuse or it's the little headache he had before the game or it's just this point in the season for him. He doesn't look like superstar 50-point MVP level Joel Embiid. So Tyrese Maxey to me is your number one concern on the Sixers, right? So OG Anunoby is the guy you brought over here to be a ball stopper, to be an on-ball pest of a defender. He's long, he's versatile, he's athletic enough to stay with Maxey as much as he can, and you're not giving up a ton because you can still have Mitch or Hartenstein out there on Joel Embiid. So to me, OG is their best bet to at least slow him down. You got to be careful because the guy I'm afraid of is Kelly Oubre when it comes to the Sixers back at home. To be honest, I think Tobias Harris is actually better off being on the road and away from that Philly crowd who just simply cannot stand him at this point and are all over the get him out. I can't wait till he's done, his contract, this, that, and the third. I'm not as afraid of Tobias Harris. I'm afraid that Kelly Oubre hits like 4 first half threes and really gets going. So to me, if you could throw OG on him as much as you can, disturb him, again, he's going to get his. He's going for 25 plus. Like, you just know, you could kind of count that into the score box. He is that good. He's that effective. He's good at getting to the line. I actually think he didn't get a few calls late and could have even been more effective. So Tyrese is going to get his. You got to slow down the others and, just keep the ball in Embiid's hands. Go throw that double at him so he could turn the ball over 9 more times, take advantage, and finish this off in Philadelphia.
And I'm not going to 100% count Embiid out, like that he can't have a good game in Game 6. He can. We know that he can. You think he can or can't?
You can't count him out. He's the MVP of the league.
Yes.
Yeah, he's, he went for 50 in Game 3, so it's not impossible, but he doesn't look healthy, and I'm more concerned. The more pressing issue is Tyrese Maxey right now.
100%. Yeah, and what he did in this game here, even with his triple-double, he played bad. That was as bad as he's played in any playoff game, and he's had a few stinkers in the past 2 years, as I highlighted on this podcast a few times over the past couple episodes here. Like, he's had games with 5-6 turnovers. He's had games where he shot 28% from the field. This was one of those games. I mean, he was making bad decisions. He wasn't making his shots. He was clearly looking for contact when he was trying to take shots because he didn't feel like he had the energy to get him in on his own. He still had 16 rebounds, which is very impressive. 5 of them offensively, which is huge. This actually is a rare occasion where the Sixers didn't just out offensive rebound the Knicks. They doubled the offensive rebounding output of the New York Knicks, 12-6. And that's another factor of this game here. If the Knicks rebound like they normally do, we're not looking at overtime. We're not looking at Maxey's 35-footer as a backbreaker. We're looking at it as, okay, the Knicks got this one in the bag. The Sixers outdogged the Knicks on the offensive glass in this game. And Embiid does deserve credit for that. For all the bitching that he does, for all the hate that he's getting from Knicks fans, most of which I'm going to say is deserved right now, you can't say the guy's not tough, okay? You can't say it. He is tough. He's also a crybaby. Two things are true at once. I say this all the time. Two things are true at once. He's a foul merchant and he's super talented. He's a crybaby and he's tough as hell. All those things are true. He's playing through a terrible knee, no conditioning, Bell's palsy, a migraine apparently, as you called it, a little headache. I called it that earlier too. I like that. But he went out there and played 50 minutes in the game? He played 48 minutes. Like after game 4 where we said, oh my gosh, he played 43 minutes. He couldn't hang for that. And he gutted out 5 extra minutes in overtime in this game. So he is tough. I also hate him. So all these things are true at once. But you can't expect him to do too much, which is why you got to sell out on Tyrese Maxey. And again, I just want to say one more time, because Cody, you said it before, but I think it's important to note. 1 or 2 plays in this game, and we're not saying, oh my God, it's Brunson or bust. Oh my God, he was a ball hog. He played really good tonight as well. We can't completely overlook the fact that Jalen Brunson went for 40. He didn't shoot super efficiently. A lot of that was due to the overtime misses. He was at over 50% before overtime, ended up 15 for 32, just underneath that. But he did play very well. So I don't think we should sit here being super concerned about Brunson, but I do think we'll have a keen eye on some of the late game, facilitation that he decides to bring onto himself.
Yeah. And just to hit on your point about Embiid, Pete, I mean, my skin crawls every time you compliment him. As bad as
got to keep it a buck.
As bad as he looked, and he had 9 turnovers, he had 4 blocks. And I know that this isn't everything, especially because Russell Westbrook stat padded his way to one of these almost every night during his MVP run. He had a triple-double. 16 rebounds and 10 assists. All these games in this series where he didn't have a single rebound in the fourth quarter, that didn't happen. As tired as he looked, he willed through it. And like you said, I totally agree with you, Cody. Tobias Harris, he's probably never going to look as good as he did tonight because he's going to go back home where the crowd, he just feels the hatred and the vitriol for him. But, man, I just can't. I can't stop replaying the 4-point play and the logo 3 and Hart missing that free throw over and over and over again in my head. And this is how Philly must have felt after game 2, man. We stole that game from them. They stole this game from us. So yeah, I guess it's a wash. So now they kind of cancel each other out. Knicks still have a 3-2 lead. Go take over the building again on Thursday night and fucking finish this thing, please. Because you know why? Really? You know why, if nothing else? Because I'm hosting on The Fan on Saturday night, 8 p.m. to midnight, and Game 7, if there is one, is going to be at 7 o'clock. And that is the last thing.
Oh, my God.
The last thing that I want is to be on air during a Game 7 Knicks game, because I'm not going to be able to hold it together. So please finish this.
Tell the Odyssey app to turn on or tell your Alexa to turn on the Odyssey app, WFAN. Listen to Pat Boyle during Game 7 of Knicks Sixers.
Please,
oh my God.
Please finish this.
Your poor
Thursday
producer.
Night.
Your poor producer. I don't know if you're going to be telling him to go to commercial as much as possible, or you're going to never let him go to commercial because you're going to be so locked in screaming at the TV. You can't do play-by-play while you're on the fan, but I could imagine that situation for you being incredibly tough. My God. Oh, man. I'm praying that doesn't happen for you, Pat, because let me ask you this. Say the Knicks don't win Game 6. Where's your confidence level at? You don't want to answer? You're going to refuse to answer, Cody? Is that because that's fair? I mean,
well, you said say the Knicks don't win Game 6. I'm not saying that.
Oh, so the Knicks will win Game 6. Yeah, there you go.
My confidence level.
Let me ask you this.
I'll say my confidence level in them winning Game 6 is at 62%. Pretty high. Pretty high. Yeah. My confidence level tonight was like 90%. Like I didn't really think there was any chance that Philadelphia was going to win that game. Game 6, you know what? No. I'm going to say 58%. I'm going to give the Knicks a 58% chance of winning Game 6. If they were to lose Game 7, I would say probably the same. Probably about 60%. Just because I don't see this team losing at home twice in a row. But my confidence level would be about the same as it is going into Game 6, just because then they're going to feel the pressure that they've never ever felt before. There was no pressure in Cleveland. They closed them out in Game 5 on the road. They dominated that series. Miami, I mean, yeah, they felt the pressure in each game, but they didn't have a lead. They never really had a lead in that series. A 3-1 lead going back to the Garden for Game 7 for a team that has minimal playoff experience. Dude, I mean, that might kill me. Game 7 might be the death of me. Win or lose.
Yeah, win or lose. I've said this all series long. I don't think my body can take 7 games of this series. It's been so intense the entire time. Is there anything, Cody, that you see is in as far as like the home situation where the pressure of the home crowd can actually play a negative role? Do you think there's any sort of truth in that sort of statement that Madison Square Garden was so insane that it almost makes life a little bit harder for the Knicks? Is that looking into it too hard?
Yeah, I could see why somebody might say that, but that's not something I would think. You get to a Game 7, you're going to expect low scoring, probably some shots being missed early. But no, I mean, if you go out early and the crowd's on your side, then I think you're feeding off of that energy and that passion. I think it's the fear of, like today where they went down 10-2 to start the game, and you can hear a pin drop in an arena filled with thousands and thousands of people, maybe. But the Knicks fans are so great that like any slight positive and they're right back in, they're right back, riding momentum. So no, I don't think that there's going to be a negative effect to that. But they, you don't want to play in a Game 7 regardless. Win or go home is not where you want to be, especially when you're up 3-1. The pressure does still, sit with the Knicks if it gets back there. So this was one you really wanted to have. And now in Philadelphia, it's almost one you feel like you have to have.
Yeah, it feels like Game 6 is absolutely the turning point. Well, Game 5 was the turning point, but Game 6 is like one of the last straws where you said, Pat, that you would still have about 60% confidence in Game 7. I will not have that confidence if they go to that spot. I will be at 44%. And maybe that's me being a bad fan. I don't know. Maybe it's me being a good fan. And it's in the eye of the beholder. But I just know, because if I'm looking at this objectively and this wasn't my team that I'm rooting for, if you see a team from 3-1 get to that Game 7, you're like, oh, they are cooking. Like the same thing with the 3-0 series leads, like when the Red Sox made the epic comeback 3-0 against the Yankees way back when. You're like, oh, Game 7's like the easy one, right? You made it to Game 7. You already kind of took the wind out of the sails of the opponent here. So if I were an objective non-fan in this series and saw the Sixers push to Game 7, I would be saying, yo, they got this. They got the number. They figured it out. They did X, Y, Z. The only thing that plays in the Knicks' favor there is that I just can't fathom Embiid looking much better as series goes on. I really think that's one thing that plays in the favor of the Knicks, and Tyrese I don't think he can do 44 points a night.
I will say this, speaking from my own experience, when OKC was up against Golden State 3-1 in 2016, when they lost Game 6, it felt like they lost Game 7 right then and there. Like, that's exactly how you feel. Like, and granted, they were going to Game 7 in Golden State, so the scenario is not exactly the same, but it feels like, oh my God, there's no chance in this game. That's how I felt going into Game 7, and ultimately I turned out to be right about that feeling. Again, it's not a 1-for-1, but being up 3-1, getting back to an even series, you feel the pressure for sure.
Yeah, for sure is right. And I don't know what else we can say about the game that we just watched. I think we kind of covered it all. But I think it's important to take these moments and to take Wednesday and kind of like sit with that misery a little bit. But by Thursday, you have to be on to Cincinnati. It's gone. I mean, for the Knicks, like, they're all on to Cincinnati already. For us fans, I think it's the same thing. It's weird that I'm not one to be like, oh, like the fans are making an impact. I'm not superstitious. I'm not one of those people, me and Pat being in booths in our live, like, you kind of can't believe in the broadcaster's jinx. You can't believe in superstition when you're in that world. Some people do. Some broadcasters, some radio hosts are like that. I don't believe Pat's like that. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Pat. I'm not like that. But as a fan, like, you almost have to sit with this misery for one day, get your frustrations out, and you got to be on to Cincinnati. You have to just say, hey, we're back. We lost a game. We lost the game. Perhaps it was a bit dramatic. Perhaps it was a bit crushing. Now we're back. We're still the same team that's favored to win this series, and you have to just look at it exactly in that scope. So I don't know what else we got here. Anything else, Pat, Cody? Any last words here on this series?
I agree with you. I don't believe in jinxes, but I disagree with you in that I'm on to Cincinnati. I'm on to Thursday. I'm not on a Thursday. This one's gonna sit with me. Because as confident as I am, you just think about 3-1 leads blown in playoff history, like you mentioned, the Yankees and the Sox. Like, it's in the back of my head, obviously. I think it's in the back of every Knicks fan. As confident as we are, confident that I was putting money on Knicks series winner. It's in the back of my head. So this one's going to sit with me thinking, is this the beginning of our worst nightmares? By Thursday night, by Thursday afternoon, I'll be all systems go. I'll be fired up. I'll have testosterone and adrenaline running through my blood, and I'll be ready to say this is it. Kill shot on the road in front of that pathetic poverty franchise fan base that we're going to take over their building because the organization raised the ticket prices higher than usual, knowing that the Knicks fans will buy it out. And that's exactly what will happen. And we'll take over their building and we'll win it. And we'll finish them off there and we'll break the process on Thursday. But for now, as we're recording here Tuesday night, most of tomorrow morning and early afternoon, I'm just going to be thinking over and over about the 4-point play, the missed free throw, and the logo 3.
Well put. Wednesday's for the misery, but Thursday we gotta lock back in. And I wonder if the Sixers organization will change any of those ticket things that a lot of Philly people were upset with, but also like, you're upset. Guess what? Could have bought the tickets. Could have not sold the tickets. You know what I'm saying here? So I think the Knicks contingency will make their presence felt again in Philly on Thursday. Clearly, the Sixers do not have that juice in Madison Square Garden. And like you said, Pat, I would be lying if I didn't say all the shit that Knicks fans have talked, all the videos of chanting "Let's go Knicks" in Wells Fargo Center, how those will just be over freezing cold takes, and how Sixers fans will get the last laugh if this all plays out in that manner. Man, is that a scary thought. Man, is that a scary thought. I don't think it's going to happen. My original take was Knicks in 6, which in this type of series, you would say, oh, the Knicks have home court advantage. Why would you say Knicks in 6? It was just a gut check, right? When we make these predictions, Knicks in 5, Knicks in 6, Knicks in 7, it's a gut check. You're just shooting from the hip. That was my gut check, that the Knicks were going to end it in Philadelphia in 6. I got to stick with that. I'm sticking with that. I think that's very possible, very realistic for the Knicks to come out to play a damn good game. It'll probably be a close game again. It'll go down to the wire. It's going to be a high anxiety game yet again, but I do believe the Knicks will still win this thing in 6. Cody, any last words from you?
Really quick, Cody, sorry. I will just say this. Can we fucking please get off to a good start in the first quarter?
One time.
Oh, my God. They're minus 33 in 5 games in the first quarter. 17 points again tonight. If not for the slow starts, who knows? The flow of the game probably changes, but still, they don't get outscored by 9 points in the first quarter. It's only 17 points. They don't, a dominant second quarter, and it's a double-digit lead, or it's a 6 or 7 point lead, and then you have a little bit more cushion. Please, for the love of God, get off to a good start in the first quarter.
One time.
I'd enjoy that as well. Take the crowd out of it early, right? Now, look, I mean, I said it earlier. I'll say it again. There's a quiet confidence about them to me because of who they are as a team, the makeup and the mental toughness that they have. And I do believe they are the type of team to take a shot on the chin like they did tonight. And that was more than just a shot on the chin. That was a gut punch, whatever you want to call it, and come back out and play a sound game, play a disciplined game, and go beat a team that you are better than, and go do it in their building. And then one more time, get the Knicks chance going in Philadelphia as you walk them out of Wells Fargo.
There you go. I can't guarantee a lot of things in life, but I can guarantee two things, fellas. I only was enjoying beverages during game 1 of this series. I didn't have any drinks during any other games, which is probably on me, but it's during the week, it is what it is. I will be throwing down some Guinness on Thursday, and that's a guarantee. A guarantee, win or lose, we booze. I'm having Guinness on Thursday. My other guarantee is that I'm going to be at Madison Square Garden this weekend. So I'm going to see Andrew Schultz perform comedy on Friday. But had to give you guys a little bit of a quick panic attack there.
I was going to say,
but,
you about
I
to
am
pony
going
up
to Madison
$600,
Square.
$700.
It'll be more than that for Game 7 if it gets to it.
Oh my God. No, I'm going to see Andrew Schultz do some comedy. Oh, that's Mark Norman, but nonetheless, in Madison Square Garden on Friday night. So I'm going to the Garden this weekend, fellas. You know, if I was going to the Garden this time of year, I thought I'd be paying out the nose. I'm not paying out the nose. Very reasonable price tickets there for Mr. Schultz. And I'm excited for that comedy show. And I'm hoping that I have no interest in Madison Square Garden on Saturday because the Knicks took care of business in 6 on Thursday. That's all we got. I was thinking when this was a win podcast, we do our thing. The Knicks win. We bury the Sixers. We move on. I was going to ask you guys for some draft thoughts, but I ain't got that in me, guys. I ain't got that in me. We'll do it another time. Well, the draft happened. Those guys will be available now to talk about until the season starts. So guess what, football fans? I don't care. Guess what, Mets fans, Yankee fans? I don't care. I had a kid at school today come in talking about the Mets. I don't care. If we ain't talking about Knicks basketball, I ain't talking about sports. Sorry. Well, I'll talk about other NBA series throughout the week, obviously. But you get the point. It's Knicks or nothing. Let's go Knicks. Game 6 Thursday. Get it done. Subway Sports Talk. Thanks to Pat. Thanks to Cody. As always, thank you for bearing with us on this brutal day for the Knicks loss in Game 5 for all you listeners out there. Hopefully some cathartic moments in this podcast. I know I felt a little bit of it working through some of the downfalls in Game 5, kind of trying not to harp on the few things that made this game go astray. Remember some of the positives that happened in that game, which are going to be the same reasons why they have a great chance to end this thing here in Game 6. So Subway Sports Talk, don't forget to subscribe, rate, review on your podcast app, Apple or Spotify. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell on YouTube. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Subway Sports Talk. Pat Boyle at Pat Boyle44. Cody O'Connor, he's like, I think he's private.
At Subway
but,
Sports
he's
Talk.
Tweeting. Yeah, at Subway Sports Talk. Some of those tweets are from Cody O. We love it.
Yes,
we love
sir.
it. And at Pete Kennedy. Pete Kennedy with 2 Y's. That's all we got. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you guys maybe on Friday. We'll see. We'll see how it goes Thursday. We'll see how many Guinness I slam on Thursday night to see if I could even podcast after this game. All right, everyone. Thank you. Cheers.